Well, we're here with Michael Brazell. Yeah. You got it. Mike, Coach Mike. I saw that on your Facebook profile. Coach Mike. So how's your day?
Day's good. It's long, but it's good. I do the 5 a.m. classes.
So do I.
Yeah.
I do the 5 a.m. and the 6 a.m.
Yeah.
It's my favorite time of day, though.
Yeah, no traffic. Plenty of
yeah. I don't know about you, but I run red lights.
No, I don't.
Like I'll stop at the red light and I'm like, there's no one coming. I'll just go.
I'm always too paranoid. Like that'll be the one time like there's that cop like sitting there.
Oh shit! Think about that. Cops are up at 5 a.m.
Probably. They're
waiting
on
on
my
my
house.
dumbass.
They're always at like the gas station chilling, so I'm always like super careful.
Cool. Well, man, this is Warrior Mindset, where we try to get to the bottom of not sucking.
Yeah.
Like dealing with life. Life can really kick you in the ass sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As you know, as a CrossFit coach.
Yes.
Let's start there, man. You have a lot of stuff on your resume.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that I was very interested in getting to, but I want to get to the old CrossFit side first, because I think that's where I first met you, coaching at CottonTown.
Right.
That's how I know of you. So what's up with CrossFit? I mean, how long you been doing that? What got you into it?
CrossFit for about 3 years now, 3.5 years, almost 4 years. I was looking for something for me. I've been teaching group fitness for about 25 years. Whoa. And I was teaching a bunch of Les Mills classes, body pump, body attack.
Wow, okay.
And, I was noticing that I wasn't getting the workout that I needed. Like when you're teaching, you're coaching, and in those classes, you're going through all the reps, but you're not getting a workout. You're not having eyes on you. And I reached out to Mark Sanger when we were still over on Forest Drive.
Forest Drive CrossFit.
And he invited me in, and I'd reached out to a few other CrossFit places, but he was the only one who responded.
Like as a coach? You reached out to him?
As a business. so it's like
probably still how it works.
Ding, 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 like reach out to people who like email you. And I loved it. And I told myself I was going to do it for 3 months, because we had like a 3-month contract. I said, I'm just going to do it for 3 months, just give it a try. If it sticks, it sticks. And then like I fell in love with it. Started coaching the mobility classes, and then took my level 1, got kids training, took my level 2, and now
took the kids course too.
Yeah, kids course.
Wow, man.
I went like all in, and now I'm studying for my
I just
3.
saw you posted on your L3.
Yeah, so now I'm like going for my L3. Just got the acceptance for my application, so now it's like study. But I love it. I love what it does for our members. I love the diversity of people that we have that come in who think they can't do some of the things and end up walking out like doing these amazing, fun, really cool things.
Just give it 3 months.
Yeah. And that's what I say. I always use myself as an example. Like I was just going to do 3 months, and now here I am coaching. And I think that speaks to what we've created there too, because our community is what inspired me to want to coach. And to,
that's cool.
And Mark has always been just probably one of the most easygoing mentors that I've ever had.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Very zen.
Yeah. Very just laid back, throws out a cue from like the left corner of the room. You don't even think he's watching it, and the next thing you know, he's like correcting your snap.
Those are the best coaches when they can just like hear it. They're like, oh, I heard you're wrong. Yeah. Like, man, you're on a different level.
And that's the things that I learned from him is like you can read the books, but you learn to listen to how the barbell clicks on a deadlift or where it's clicking the knees like on a snatch or something.
Just tell.
Yeah. Yeah,
you just smell
absolutely.
It. That's cool. So you went into it as a coach in the fitness world beforehand. Were you sort of skeptical at all?
I wasn't. I had
you didn't fall in for any of that.
I had all the naysayers. They're like, don't do this. You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get injured. I had some friends of mine who are like PTs. They're like, oh, you're gonna break your neck.
Every PT's like,
blah, blah,
they
blah.
paid for my boat. Yeah, every single joke.
And then like those same people after I was doing it were like, hey, what's the place you go to? Yeah, because they were noticing, and what I noticed was the injuries that I had from the repetitive classes I was teaching were gone.
Right.
So for me, and even for my mom, like my mom's 67, and she started doing CrossFit.
You got your mom in there.
Yeah, and she had this wrist injury, and the doctor wanted to operate. But I said, let's just try like farmer's carry, some TRX work, and
stronger.
She got stronger, and she didn't have to have the surgery.
Well, that's like the base of PT in general, is just to build the thing that's broken stronger.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. L3. So what's the difference between the L2 and the L3?
L2, you learn how to coach. So the L1, you basically learn what CrossFit is.
Learn how to do air squats and push press.
Yeah, and typically when you go for your L1, it's the folks in the L1 have had that kind of first CrossFit experience, or they're looking to open a box, or they have these high hopes for it. The L2 is when you really learn to look at people.
Gotcha.
And the most intimidating part is you're critiqued on your coaching. And when we were there, when I was in the level 2, people were crying because like you think you know how to coach an overhead squat until those red shirts are watching you like completely forget how to coach an overhead squat.
There's nothing worse. Yeah, like that's how I learned was doing, and then like, I didn't teach that person right.
Yeah,
and you know, my boss, the head coach, she was just like, you screwed that up, and here's how we're gonna fix it. And I was like, cool. And the next person I got right. But
and the L3
how you have to do it.
It's all comprehension. So now you go from learning about CrossFit to really embracing it and coaching better, and now you really take this encyclopedia of CrossFit and you learn to really apply it, because that's where
cool.
It's like the PhD of CrossFit.
Okay.
And then there's like the L4, which hasn't come out yet. But for the L3, they give you, I think it's over 100 articles and like 40 videos to watch, and they even tell you in the response, your job is not to memorize, your job is to apply this across a spectrum of scenarios. So it's looking at how you coach and how you're able to be the best version of yourself for your members.
That's interesting. Do you find, are you worried at all? I mean, I would be worried about going into it with like some preconceived ways of working. Like, this is how I do it, and I've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah, I'm
going to come in here and you're going to teach me different. Like, but I know this works.
Yeah, and I think what it is really like refining those things.
That's cool.
I've also found some online groups. There's this great podcast called Best Hour of Their Day, and they have a coaches development course that I signed up for.
That's cool.
So I think what the invitation is for us as coaches is to continually improve ourselves. If we're not improving ourselves as coaches, we can't improve our members.
Right.
So for me, the level 3 means I have to really dig down and study and be a better coach. So I'm taking out that L2 and really starting to go back in and being more assertive in my coaching, being, as they say in the L2, relentless in how you coach the air squat, something as simple as the air squat. I think we get caught up in the fancy things sometimes, like snatches and the cool stuff.
The basics are what get you there.
Right. And that's really what the L3 is really coming back to those 9 foundational movements and really like hammering yourself in them, but also being able to like look at your members better.
You're deep in this right now, I can tell.
I love it. It's like you really have to just bathe in the Kool-Aid at this point.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that's deep stuff. I also I often think about we're working with our clients. Like, we did have you heard of Stuart Brower, the WTF Gym Talk guy?
Yeah.
We did a year. It was almost a year. Working with him on some things, and one of the things we kept hitting on as we were trying to like hone in on branding and what we're about and your ethos. After a tour of some places in Charlotte, the spectrum of fitness is so big, and there's a huge part of it that's transactional.
Right.
I'm not going to name names, but like you pay a fee, you come in, you work out, and that's what they're for, and that's cool. Then there's the transformational.
Right.
And you strike me as a person that kind of gravitates
to
that sort of relationship with your clients.
The way I look at it and the way I've seen it in the 25 years I've been doing fitness is there are really 2 reasons people come to the gym. They're either going to war with themselves or they're falling in love with the process. And my job as a coach is to help them fall in love with the process, because if they're battling a number on a scale, that's going to shift every 2 seconds. If they're battling some image in the mirror, that once they achieve, they're going to let go of this thing that's like giving them that thing they're looking for. And I think an effective coach really helps them fall in love with it. And your passion as a coach has to come through. Otherwise,
it has to be real.
Yeah, they're going to feel like you don't want to be there. And
it has to be real.
Jam.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the yoga.
Yeah.
Okay, so jump to the CrossFit. I imagine the yoga was pre-CrossFit.
Oh, very much
pre-fitness coaching. So what got you through there? Let's start at the beginning, man.
So yoga came about almost like CrossFit did. I was teaching for Bally Total Fitness way back in the day, And I was doing boot camp classes and cycling classes and these really aggressive, like hard style classes, cardio kickboxing. I did martial arts forever.
Did you?
And then,
get into that.
yeah. And my thing was I will never, ever do cardio kickboxing. And then one day I was there to like,
I know, you're
the
like,
cardio kickboxing instructor is not here and we need somebody. You're like the only person who knows anything about martial arts in this building. So we got to have you. So I was like, I'd taken a class and thought it was dumb. And then I taught the class and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it and I taught it and I taught turbo kick and like these, now I teach body combat, which is phenomenal too as a program. And it was that thing that kind of like was amazing while it was. And then I realized through all of that real heavy, hard hitting stuff, I was really damaging my body. And a friend of mine was teaching this, instructor training program. He said, I need a guy in the class. I'll give you the training for free.
I just need another dude.
I just need a guy to take the training. And I said, fine, I'll take the training. And this is dumb, yoga, stretching, I can stretch. And then first class, realized my hips were locked up.
Right.
I realized how damaged I was. And then slowly I transitioned to just teaching yoga.
Okay.
And that journey took me into the spiritual aspects of yoga. It opened me up to how it not only impacts your health and wellness, but your physical body. And being able to help people move better through yoga. And also yoga gives you permission to touch on the emotional aspects of fitness, which
like martial arts does.
Yeah. So sometimes there's that missing piece with like fitness where we're like really engaging the physical, but we often forget the mental, emotional side of it.
That's right.
So it gives me that permission to do that.
Well, from my understanding, yoga is a martial art.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Right. So you keyed in on that. Yeah. I will say I've always kind of felt the same way that you described yourself. One of my mentors is Mark Devine. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yeah.
And, he's a Navy SEAL who teaches yoga.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
And I checked out his Yoga for Navy SEALs book or whatever, and I was like, well, if Navy SEALs can do it, I can try it.
Right.
And I'm with you, man. I mean, I never went down the rabbit hole to go any further than the book or whatever, but I've been to some classes and that shit's legit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's when you really dig deep into it. And on Thursdays, we have a day that's just dedicated to yoga mobility at CottonTown CrossFit. So it's legit yoga. We're not doing like Ramwad or something like that.
So the whole day?
Like the whole day. Except in the morning, we have a supplemental weightlifting class, and it's just basic barbell movement. Get better with the barbell. So it's a day to recover, but it's also a day just to do yoga.
Right.
And we do just legit yoga practice. We don't CrossFit-fy it.
Right.
Make it yoga,
Right.
But it's some of our most attended classes, which tells me people like that meditation at the end. They like that thing, and we're giving them as much as we can to help make them better. Not only athletes, but just better in life.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, man, that's a ton of experience. 25 years in the industry. You're kind of blowing me away.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It's been a while.
Yeah, man. All right, so you talk about meditation. You have meditation on your resume, and you've got some blog posts about it and stuff. Yeah. So let's get into that a little bit.
Okay.
So they probably go hand in hand. Imagine you found one through the other.
They do. Actually, I found meditation first. I remember Bill Sanford was my martial art teacher, like when I was in high school. Yeah. Okay. Still a good friend of mine, mentor, talked me into joining the Navy. So I joined the Navy because of him.
Okay.
Couldn't swim and still joined the Navy because he talked me into it, and truly one of the best decisions I ever made. You had to train with like these great martial arts masters. I trained with Masaki Hatsumi sensei in Japan. So reading about him when I was little, now training with him.
That's awesome.
And Sensei Sanford was the one who taught me first how to meditate. And it was just visualization. Just visualize yourself like looking at a wall and practicing your katas mentally. Right. And that's how we built retention.
Not to get too nerdy we already got nerdy on the CrossFit L1s, L2s, and L3s. What style is, I can't remember what style Mr. Sanford does.
It was Aki Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, Jiu-Jitsu.
Akitora-Ryu was the
Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
And then we trained with Rafi Pemburin with our niece for a while, and it was some like new stuff to the area. I remember we went to Florida and trained with Mike Sayok.
So that was like 25 plus years ago.
Yeah, this was like I was in high school, so it was plus 25 plus.
Yeah.
And that's where I started like
Nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was around here.
No, I was coaching the kids class for him. I was coming in, And I was that like kid that would not leave the dojo, so he had to give me a job. So he let me,
That's legit.
Call in collections, and he let me.
No,
I was that kid. I would call, hey, your bill's due, and then I was the guy teaching.
He didn't want to
kids
do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was cool. So it was my first real experience in coaching and teaching classes, and watching the kids like learn kata and the discipline, and that all carried forward. And I remember like in my younger days when I wasn't, as kind and gentle and meditative, and we're in the bars and these places, in the Navy, having to apply some of the stuff that I learned. So it was. You get to the point you're like, oh, this stuff really does work.
It can, yeah. That's legit, man.
Yeah.
How far did you get under him?
With him, I don't remember. Like, I think we got to.
That's a tricky question because even 20 years ago, some of those guys didn't even award rank.
Yeah, and a lot of time, and over the years, I've trained with just so many people who were like, I had a friend on my ship who was a Kyokushinkai black belt. We would just spar, and I would learn from him. And I found like that's just how my experience has always been. I found people who wanted to share, and we would learn from each other. So I've learned, across a variety of martial arts. And a guy on my ship was a 10th degree with Masaki Hatsumi Sensei in ninjutsu, and I got to go like just hang out at his house, which was like legit cool, like in the dojo with the trap doors and all the cool stuff. Yeah. And see, like having
wild stuff,
just because people like you meet people who care and they want to share, and I think that's something that nowadays we don't have as much of. We have people who are
transactional, man.
Yeah, we want the exchange versus the relationship, and what can I get from you versus let me share this with you, and
let's make this a journey.
And I think that's what with Mark at CottonTown, he really brought me in and never made me feel like I wasn't like. I was less than him or anyone else there. So it's always like you have someone who's pulling you along because they're feeding you the stuff that they know is going to help you grow. And I think that's where yoga and CrossFit and martial arts and all of these things really like kind of merged for me. Was I've always connected a family as opposed to just someone else who's a teacher. Like it's always been more family. Like Bill Sanford was more like a father figure than he was like the dojo guy I saw like once a week.
Yeah, I like that much better with my experiences. So you got into meditation first through martial arts. What did you use it for in martial arts, and then what did you use it for now?
In martial arts, it was more just for retaining kata,
just like calming down the teenager in the corner.
Basically. And now it's definitely taken a much bigger role, teaching people how to connect to their bodies in a world that's constantly telling us to be disconnected from our bodies. There's an assumption that meditation is about getting quiet, and it's more about being okay with the noise, because there's no way to quiet the mind. It's literally impossible to be in a complete state of like silence. You can even put yourself in those rooms, but you're still thinking. So there's noise in the background.
Like those stories of the people who can slow their heartbeat down to like 1 beat an hour and appear dead. Yeah.
So it's like, and that might be legit. Like if you're in a cave somewhere doing like some cool stuff, and if that's your path and like your jam, then like do it. But not most of us are not going to have that experience.
I know you're my people. You sit in a cave doing cool stuff.
So I mean, I love to be in a cave doing cool stuff, but we're in the world doing cool stuff. And
I mean, Irmo buying groceries, right?
And even like in CrossFit, like training people to breathe better helps them to move better. So in our yoga class, showing them like how yoga applies to the movements that we do in CrossFit, and how breathing also applies to controlling their mindset in class. If you can fully be present for a 1 rep max without worrying if you're going to miss it or not, just the very act of being with the barbell can help you to get the weight off of your head. And if you miss it, you're not like fatigued and scared and worried. You have taken that mental place and have shown up fully to the barbell.
That's some legit coaching, man.
So that's
going deep.
Yeah, that's the deep stuff, and getting them to that point, just exposing them to it. And I find like it doesn't take much to get them there as long as they're just exposed to it. And we have to be willing to be vulnerable enough to show them all that cool stuff.
Right. You got to let go of your ego a little bit. So what's your go-to meditation practice for yourself? Like let me give you a scenario. You're in Irmo buying groceries.
Yeah.
Whatever. No, seriously. Like what's your, like maybe you're about to hit a, your 1 rep max on whatever your favorite lift is, whatever. But like, what's your go-to meditation practice?
I just take a deep breath and place my hand on my chest, and I feel myself breathing. That is the easiest and quickest way to come back to your body. And it's something I teach a lot of my students and clients. If they ever feel like they're just disconnected, just place your hand on your chest and literally feel yourself breathing, feeling where the breath is in your body, and knowing that the invitation is always to breathe deeper. When we are able to connect to the breath, then we're able to be more present. The thing that's taking the breath away from us, and we're in a society that is living on the inhale, so we're and nobody breathes out. And I'll listen to classes when we're doing movements, and I can hear people not exhaling.
Yes.
And they're already coming in with limited breath capacity, and they're trying to do these amazing lifts and things, and they can't breathe. And they're gasping for air. And it's part of our job, one, to teach them how to breathe during the lift, but if we can teach them that this is okay to breathe deep at the grocery store, when someone cuts in front of you, and you're in a rush to get to class, you know, it calms things down a bit. It lets you be the center of the storm versus the storm.
I dig that.
Yeah.
So two things in terms of breath practice. So I teach martial arts myself, and you know, we have this. I won't bore you with the details of the process, but there's a process, right? There's certain levels. Let's, you know, yellow, orange, blue, like 1, 2, 3, and there's a path that they go through in learning how to breathe. Like you mentioned the word kata, so you know what that is. And it's one of my favorite things to get someone so far from that first level where they're struggling, like they're focused on just remembering what they're doing. Like, don't screw this up, don't screw this up, don't screw this up. You know, so we practice positive imagery, like, you know, not don't screw this up, like I'm going to fix this, right? You're just trying to realign them all the way to the end where they're learning to breathe through the motion. And I like to just walk through the floor and I can hear, he's breathing right. You're not breathing right. You're breathing strong. It's just a beautiful thing.
Right.
What kind of advice would you have for me for one, coaching those people? Like, you know what a kata is or whatever. It could be a lift, but what kind of advice would you give me for helping somebody breathe better?
One of the best piece of advice is,
you're not going to invoice me for this one.
No. this one's free charge. Is just let the breath be natural. The body knows how to breathe. And if you just tune in to the body's natural capacity to breathe, it's when, like on a lift where someone is trying to inhale and exhale in the wrong direction, and then the lift gets significantly harder and they turn like 6 colors of red. Or if you're in a situation where someone's getting aggressive, the way you control your breath you can entrain them to slow their breathing patterns down. You start talking slower, makes you calmer, which makes you more present, more capable to use all the skills.
Absolutely.
So then it becomes like bunkai, where you're pulling out the breath as one of the movements of the kata. So now it's not like this thing I'm having to really think about, but where can the breath really take this movement to where it's supposed to go?
Gotcha.
Without me having to change much, because that's where life application happens.
You're already, it's already hard enough.
If I can breathe naturally and understand where my breath is in my body, and that's always a question I'll ask people. It's like, where's your breath today? And they'll immediately like, stop breathing.
Yeah, my
and
chest.
You're like, right here, right? So am I taking the breath all the way down, or am I breathing real shallow? And we don't look at it in judgment, because maybe we need some shallow breaths today. Maybe I just have to get through something.
Gotcha.
But if I'm aware of the fact that I'm breathing more shallow, then maybe I can invite myself to breathe deeper.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. The other point I was going to talk about with breath training was, again, Mark Divine. I'm a big follower.
Yeah.
Followed him forever. But he teaches, one of his go-to things is box breathing.
Yeah.
You probably know that. But where does that fall for you? I mean, I know it's not the most advanced technique, and he says that too. But
and actually, I think it is, because it requires you to be real conscious about how you're breathing. Anything that where we're doing like breath restriction, or like, you know, Wim Hof is like the big thing now. Inhale, hold your breath. You know, I think anything where you're being purposeful around how you're breathing trains you to breathe deeper.
Right. Okay.
But for me, I've found, like, because I've done like all these different yoga styles of breathing, or breath of fire, where you're inhaling and exhaling, you're hyper oxygenating the body. They have their purpose, but I've often found, just like CrossFit, we get to the snatch without working on the air squat. If you can't breathe naturally, then all those other things become like, if I can't do box breathing, then I'm not breathing correctly. So
I got you.
Learning to
Ooh,
breathe just like your own body's natural capacity to breathe, and not trying to change it. It's like really just watching like the inhale and the exhale as this very natural inhale and exhale. And then what the breath is giving you, like every exhale is creating space for the next breath. How much space do you need? So if I need more space in my body for oxygen, I take deeper exhales, you know?
Okay.
Take deeper inhales. I need more oxygen. I need more power. I need to pull something in.
I dig it.
You know, so we can really like get into the metaphysics of breathing, but I find just simply breathing is the hardest like skill to teach
just to
somebody.
support the physical task.
Yeah.
That's where most of, I mean, yeah.
When you tell someone to sit up and meditate, they start changing how they breathe. They start changing how they sit.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And there's this one style of meditation I do called instinctive meditation, where just how you show up is, even meditation can dance. Like you don't have to like just lay there or sit still. You can just move. You can dance. You can like.
Right. I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
We never did it as part of my practice, my martial arts practice. I mean, I still don't do it. Like I said, everybody thinks, well, I don't do that, but I would say I do meditation because I think kata is definitely meditation.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't really say like, you know, sometimes like a CrossFit WOD, like if you've done it a lot of times and you're doing it again, you can kind of maybe get in that state.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. But I definitely think kata is. And then transferring, doing kata in your mind, like visualizing it, definitely is. And that shit is hard to do.
Yeah.
And I purposefully, because I was training for, you know, black belt first degree like years ago, and like I was like, okay, I've been told, learn to visualize this stuff, you know, and didn't tell me how, but just learn to visualize it. So I would just lay in bed. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to go through the number one basic thing, and I couldn't do it. I get like halfway through.
Yeah.
And then I did it some more and did it some. And over time, I was doing like 4 and 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 katas in a row, and I was like, I think this is meditation. I think this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what it is for the person. I think there's just so many different ways to meditate. And I've done everything from chanting to stargazing to, you know, candle gazing. There's tons of ways to meditate. But whatever works for you is the best form of meditation. Whatever helps you to be more calm and more centered. I used to give some clients of mine who were just had a hard time, just like watch a funny YouTube video for 3 minutes.
Interesting.
Like, that can be meditation. If it makes you feel good for 3 minutes, then why not?
What do you think about like assisted meditation with like whatever, like drugs or whatever?
I mean, people.
About that?
There's tons of like thought on it. I think it opens some doors, but it also just becomes one more tool. Like even Ram Dass, who was pretty much a pioneer. Him and Timothy Leary were pioneers in LSD.
Right.
Even he said that the whole purpose of something like LSD is to get you there so you can bring something back with you. But we get caught in the I need to stay there because that feels better than being here.
I'm sure it does.
Here means we have to deal with some stuff.
Right.
So it's what you do when you come back from those places, I think. And now they're using those drugs for helping people at end of life. So when we're talking about death and dying and helping us to breathe into some of these bigger concepts, I think that's where those things may serve a greater purpose.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. We're going to keep going through here. You're segueing me. Good job. You've got Grief Companion and Death Doula.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I want to get to that first, but I do want to talk about some of the grief stuff.
Yeah.
What's the deal there? Like, how do you become a grief coach? I mean,
so part of my work before I moved to South Carolina was I was doing Reiki, energy healing, with the yoga. So with the yoga space, we're in a much more emotional space. And I often find that when people show up to something like yoga or even fitness, we don't really know why they're there. But I've encountered enough people to know that a lot of times we're there because we're trying to get better at something, or we're trying to like move through something. There's something like that inspires us to take that next step sometimes.
okay.
And showing up to grief is something that we're not taught. We live in a very grief phobic society.
Yes.
So we're not taught how to do those things. And what I find is sometimes people have these emotional like releases in classes. Within CrossFit, grief is built into CrossFit. Like the hero wads are a way that we grieve.
That's right.
So there's grieving built into.
Right. You feel that energy. I do. I've always felt that energy.
Which is amazing. Which I think that's, for CrossFit's credit, it builds a place where you memorialize those who have died.
There's only one reason you're doing Murph. It ain't to feel good.
Yeah. And I think
bad.
there's something to that. And I think being a grief coach just means being able to show up to someone in a space where we're not judging the grief. We're not saying you have to grieve a particular way because everyone grieves differently, but having someone be able to bear witness to what you're experiencing as a companion.
Gotcha.
Because we're not trying to change anything. If we need to offer some healing or ritual or movement to help you process your grief, then that's what we'll do. But we're not going to trivialize it or do anything that's not helpful to you in that moment. And I've led some workshops around moving into grief where we use movement as a way for us to process how we're feeling. And it just lets us put context
What kind of movement? Like yoga?
Yoga or whatever. I'll ask the person, if we're doing a workshop or a one-on-one session, what needs to move today? Do you need to sweat today? Is that going to help you move your grief today? Do you just need to meditate today? Do we need to do yoga today? And they get to decide. And so I get to pull from this vast array of tools that I have.
Wow.
And it helps me to integrate all the stuff that I do to help this person figure out what that next step is. Because grief disconnects us from the body. And if I can help them to just reconnect to this thing, then they can be here, which then lets them do something. Whether it be take a next step or just sit with themselves or cry or whatever they need to do next, it lets them be connected to their bodies in that way. So that's just the invitation that grief offers us, is to just be present in our bodies. And, we're living in a place where we're seeing numbers of dead, like on the TV. So we're grieving lots of stuff. And even if we don't know what we're grieving, there's a lot of stuff like hitting us everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
We have, Memorial Day. It's a whole day
that's what it's about.
To we
have several of
grieving.
those. Yeah.
And I know there's some groups that are pushing for, even for the White House to declare some
the
grief
coronavirus
space.
Memorial Day.
Yeah,
thing,
and there's some grief space in there where I think when we give ourselves permission to feel, we give ourselves permission to heal. I think that's important.
It's a nice tagline, man.
Yeah.
Even on a shirt. No, that's awesome. So you came to that after years of fitness and
I think it's always
things.
just kind of been in there, but the past year really witnessing people, it's just always work I've been doing, more in the background. If I see someone grieving or going through a loss, then we can context that a bit through movement and fitness and energy healing or meditation.
You strike me as a person that just wants to help.
I do. That's my path in this world, is to help people. And more so to help them connect to their bodies, because I find that, even as a death doula, our job as death doulas is to educate around death and dying. And that's something else we're not taught about. There's so much around death and dying that
I've only ever heard that doula term in terms of birth.
Yeah.
Did you? Is that like a thing, or did you come up with that?
It's a thing. It's,
okay.
I went to a training with this group called Going with Grace. A Lua author. She is the founder of the training I went through, but I've seen her on Facebook for years, and I've always wanted to take her training. It wasn't until I lost, over the course of 4 months, we lost our 3 little dogs. And getting hit with grief and loss and seeing the loss around me, I wanted to know more about death and dying.
Okay.
Because we talk about it, superficially, but what death and dying and talking about death in particular, especially around fitness, is fitness isn't going to make you live longer, because you can walk out and get hit by a bus.
Right.
But if you understand how death works, that we're all going to die. So that's a spoiler alert. We're all going to die.
Except me, man.
Yeah.
Just want you to know right now.
Yeah. But if I can recontext fitness into, it can help me live a higher quality of life versus extending my life, then I get to enjoy my life better for whatever time I have left. So then it takes the pressure off. I don't have to live 80 more years. I can just enjoy If it's 80, it's 80. If it's today, it's today. But I get to enjoy it completely and fully. And a death doula helps people in different ways. So death doula really gets to define what they do with that title. So some people will sit vigil. I've gone to hospice and I've done pinnings for some of the veterans who are in hospice. Sometimes it's just educating people about advanced directives and the paperwork around death and dying. It's having conversations with your family. Because of the death doula training, I get to talk to my mother about wills, and it took the fear out of the conversation because they're important.
Right. You don't want to, I don't want to have this really sad conversation.
Yeah. And you realize like having those conversations is the best gift we can give the people we love, because there's only clarity at the end. And we know what we want done with our bodies. We know what we want done, do not resuscitates and those kinds of things.
And they've made those decisions, right?
And we're talking about it, which takes the pressure off that this has to be some hidden taboo thing. And what I found is, because putting those titles on more open spaces like my Facebook, I have conversations at the gym. I have conversations everywhere now about death and dying.
So people are like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, and people just want to talk about death and dying. And when you know there's someone you can talk to about it, and they're not going to look at you weird.
Right.
We can have these great philosophical questions about what happens after we die.
Yeah,
or
let's get into it. Yeah.
We can talk about, like, what do I need to know if my mother's dying and I don't know what paperwork I need? Like, what do I do?
Let's get to the basics.
So it can be something as simple as that or as abstract as that. And I think having that space where we can even meditate on dying, like, what is that? What does it mean to die? And what are my fears around it? And what can I do to be more present in my fears? Doesn't mean the fears aren't valid. It just means I should be aware of them.
Wow. It can help you live, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you're talking about. Everything you're talking about is just how to live.
And that's what the invitation death offers us, is death is an invitation to live more present and to be more just inspired by life. Because death is that thing. We think like things are going to last forever, like relationships. Eventually someone's going to die. So I had someone tell me one time, every relationship has a sad ending. But when you're aware that this person may not be there forever, like the little things that may annoy you become things that, you can like say, this is the thing I really love about this person or this thing that I have or this person that I am. It lets us age. It lets us be present in our bodies. It's like if I notice like my knees are hurting when I'm doing it's because I'm aging. It's okay to age. It's okay to get old, and it's perfectly fine to die.
But it sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does.
They say there's only two things in life that are certain: death and taxes.
Yep, absolutely.
Try to avoid both as much as possible.
Exactly.
Do you find that the people you encounter in 25 years of doing this stuff, do you find most people are searching? They're looking for something. Is that kind of like what's led you down this path? You're trying to provide that help for people.
Yeah, I think they just need a landing point. And I think they need someone who's not there just to take their money. They need someone who's not there just to run them through some template program.
Right.
They need someone who sees them, and they need someone who sees them at their core. Right. When you can talk to your members about something like death and dying, if you've taken like a bunch of walls down.
You're not like some kind of monk?
Yeah.
I think you're a monk, dude.
I think I crossed monkhood like 10 tattoos ago, I think.
I think so. I think you did.
And that's the thing. People always ask about the tattoos, and I'm like, well, I put them on my face.
I wasn't afraid to. I was going to.
I at this point, there's no separating like me from my path. Like, so it can't really get any weirder than this. So when I talk about death and dying, it's like, oh, it's no weirder than like the flower of life on your forehead.
You kind of is that like a symbol of your commitment to what you're doing?
Yeah, I think it was. I think they just started showing up, and I had this amazing tattoo artist friend of mine in DC who just never said no. And at one point he was like,
best / worst friend ever.
Yeah, most people sleeve their arms. I'm like, well, we've already crossed the line. Why
arms
stop
are full, bro?
Now? Like, let's just keep on keeping on. But what I find is they're either walls or windows depending on who's looking. So there's an invitation, and I find even when I have conversations that aren't pleasant with people about my tattoos, I would have never had that conversation with this person otherwise. So it's an invitation for us to talk about something.
Wow.
That draws them in, good or bad, but we get to talk. And I think that's the thing that's missing.
Wow.
In a lot of times, in a lot of spaces. And even there's differences, we can still talk. And
It's like a challenge for you to convince someone otherwise sometimes?
No, I just like to listen to what people
Right.
have to say. I'm more of a, I'll take your perspective.
See, that's how I kind of land too. Like, we were talking about coronavirus a little bit.
Yeah.
People fall on either side of this, man. And it's been politicized. I mean, not making this a political, but like, I tend to fall on the side. Maybe it's because martial artists and, we don't hide from conflict. We learn to sort of redirect conflict. And that's partly what it's about. And I just enjoy listening to whatever their arguments are and just trying to figure out, like, where are you coming from with some of this? It's like either side can be bonkers.
Right.
And it's like, I just enjoy, like, trying to figure out what's going on inside their head and talking with them about it.
Everyone has a little piece of the answer. And
you're right.
It's almost like if you get to either politics or religion, people start their hackles go up. And it's like, it's
because they're protecting their turf.
Yeah, right. And I think when you
have no turf, man.
Yeah, when you put two, like when I get to the pearly gates, I have like a tattoo for whatever. Whoever's standing there, they're gonna let me in. Cause I'm like, oh, I got that one. So whatever.
I had a friend in high school that used to say, I don't know what gods exist, but I'm gonna worship all of them because I don't want to piss any of them off.
Never know, like whoever's there, right? And I think when you allow yourself even the diversity of reading about, looking into, in fitness too, like if you're so opposed to some of the box fitness places that are opening up and you're like, this is your jam, but you should know what they're doing. Like there's probably something they're doing great and there's probably stuff they're not. Absolutely. And I think the willingness to just explore everything life has for you gives you the invitation just to be better.
It's that abundance mindset.
Yeah, and it lets you just show up more present to your members. Like you're going to have those people who come in who are from a diverse background. If you're rigid, they're going to feel that. They won't feel the invitation from you.
Yeah, I was taught. It was a couple years ago. I always thought I had an abundance mindset. I pride myself on it, but I realized I didn't fully until someone was. We were in one of the businesses, and I was like, man, what happens if a competing business moves 2 doors down? I was like, that would suck.
Yeah.
And the person I was talking to was like, nah, that'd be cool. Because if they're coming down the street, they're choosing which one of us they're going to work with, not am I even going to do this in the first place?
Right.
I was like, holy shit, like, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's the way we should be thinking about stuff. And it never really quite clicked until he had explained it that way. And yeah, I dig that, man. All right, one of your quotes you have, I pulled it out. Showing up is the hardest thing we'll do.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? What's up?
It's like someone comes to CrossFit, the first thing they ask, like, what's the hardest thing we do here? It's like, just walk through the door.
Right?
It's like, that's commitment.
Right.
These things aren't things you can just do once and walk away from, expect to get results. So the hardest thing we'll ever do for anything is show up, whether it be our relationships, whether it be to our capacity to grow, showing up to our rigidity, showing up to our limitations. Like if my knees hurt, show up to that. Like don't crush yourself today. Give yourself rest. Right. Being able to just be there lets you then get what you need from that thing. So, showing up is the absolute hardest thing we do. Even conversations and arguments, people are already like figuring out what their next argument is without even listening to what the person's saying. Yeah. It's like, show up to the conversation, let them say, and then take it in. Maybe you won't change your mind.
But I don't have to be your enemy just because we don't agree.
And I think that's where the walls come up. Everyone's like already arguing their next statement without even listening to what the person's saying.
You're so right, man. That's a good one.
We just want to be heard and seen.
I like that. It is. And I'll say the days that I don't want to go, the days I don't want to go to jiu-jitsu, they're the best days whenever I actually get there. I usually learn the most. Yeah. And I think it's because of my state. I'm like, man, I don't want to be here. Well, I'm here, so fuck it. Yeah. And then you learn. You've turned off the stupid part of your brain.
You got over whatever boundary was keeping you from being there, and you like got in the car, you drove down the street, and you got there, you showed up, and then even if it's a bad day, you still showed up. You showed up to the bad days too.
You still won. Yeah. You still won. Yeah. Do you find you've been coaching people for 25 years, so you probably got some good stories and some good experiences. Do you, and I don't even know how to fully explain this, but you got to coach me on this. So let's say we have someone we're working with. Yeah. and we're working with them, not just on the physical getting better, but we understand that they have some things that are limiting them, and we get closer and we get closer. And then that person is getting close to the hard thing that they have to deal with. But then all of a sudden they start getting distant from you, and then maybe they don't want to talk to you anymore. Or even put up that wall of like, well, you're just my coach, so this stuff's personal.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've encountered that.
Yeah. Every now and then you'll get someone who doesn't want that part of it, and that's cool too. Like, I think one of the most powerful things is owning our boundaries. If someone says, hey, I just want to lift today. I don't need your jokes.
Right.
I don't need your crap today.
Right.
Like, don't even look at me today. Fine,
Right.
Let's do it. Like,
Right.
I can do that for you. Right. Because my ability as a coach is they showed up. Like, even if they don't want me there, they're angry at me because something's bad in their life. I can be that for them today. Because that's my job. That's my job, is to, and it always sounds like whooshy when you say it, but I'm there to love every single one of them. Like, I love my members completely. And if they're having a crap day, then like they can take it out on me because I'm big enough.
You're willing,
yeah. And then I'm going to take it on the barbell later. So, and I think having a good support system too. Mark and I, and Aaron Davis, our new member coordinator, we talk a lot. So if we have like some things that we need to discuss, we discuss them. Like if I'm having a hard time navigating a relationship with a member, like we talk, and he'll talk to me. And so we have that open space, but we also have this real open door policy with our members. Like they can reach out to me on Facebook, my cell phone, whenever they need, whatever they need. So we have this, we kind of built this place where there are no doors on our walls. If you need the wall, it's there, but there's no doors, so you can always come through.
That's cool.
And we have this place where we do communicate what we need to each other, and sometimes it requires having those tough conversations.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta let them know.
Yeah, in both directions. But I find that when you give them the space, but are still there, those walls come down.
Yeah, they eventually do.
Yeah, eventually.
Or they leave.
Yeah, or they leave. And and I think.
And that's okay.
And that's okay too, because maybe they need something from somewhere else. And I've even in my 25 years, I've helped people find other places. They're like, hey, working with you is not my jam. We're just not meeting eye to eye. Well, fine. I know these 10 coaches over here that I think you're going to work really well with.
Right.
And I think too, it also like brings down those walls within our communities, because there's just like, well, I don't want them going to the big box gym. It's like, well, maybe they want like those classes that
maybe they want to go run on a treadmill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. They're doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something's better than absolutely nothing.
Yeah. That's what I would rather you be doing that than paying me to do nothing. Well, do both.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want you to go, but like, I think that's the thing with like, you can't fight someone's ocean. Like if they're like having a tough time and they need something else, it's okay for them to go seek that thing. But I think the invitation is, hey, if you ever want to come back, we're here for you.
Yeah, we're always here. Come hang out.
Like I've been to places where I stopped a membership. I needed to take a break, and they got pissed. It's like
I have too. Yeah.
And now I'll never go back there.
No,
not even
dangerously.
You could
toxic.
give me a free like 3 months, and I'm probably not going to go back.
Yeah, that's a good way to not have return visitors.
You shut me down. Didn't ask like why I was leaving, or didn't check in and say, hey, we noticed you're not back. Would you want to come back? Nothing. Just like goodbye.
Fine. You're a traitor.
Don't
anyway.
let the door hit you on the way out. It's like
I've seen
okay.
that. I think one of the hardest things for me is to continually remind myself that it's not about me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's sort of that's why I connect with like Coach Divine so much, because he preaches that master yourself, serve others. Right. Yeah. Like it's not about you.
Yeah.
Like that's not why you're here. If you're here to coach someone to make your own ego feel better, you're probably in the wrong business, because you're not going to last very long.
Yeah.
You're definitely not going to get respect from the people you're coaching, because they're going to smell that shit from a mile away.
Yeah.
We've all seen coaches like that.
Because then you only work with the people who are doing great.
Yeah, right.
Like you're like coaching like the 1 rep max snatches.
Yeah.
The guys that are like lifting 400 pounds.
Yeah, they'll do that on their own. They don't really need you actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to get there.
Yeah, the guys on the PVC pipe is someone that needs you standing next to him and cheering him on.
That's
and
right.
And that's the one that when he's now snatching 400 pounds, is going to like
level
really,
his white belts. Yeah. My sensei always said that. He always, when I was coming up through the early ranks, he would always say like, my favorite students to work with are the white belts.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the hell am I? Like, I'm a brown belt, damn it. Why are you ignoring, but I get it now. Like, that is the most fun, because one, as a coach, they're a blank slate. But two, it's the newness of like getting into what they're doing and being there for them, and they need it the most.
Yeah. I remember Sensei Sanford saying there's at some point in some traditions, you go from, it's just a couple belts. It's like white, and then it's black, and then you're back to white again. So it's
man,
there's no belts in between. It's like you're a beginner, then you're a master, and then you're back to being a beginner.
You're a beginner master.
Yeah. So it's like you never really get to attach your ego to the thing. It's like
you shouldn't. Yeah.
You just like are absorbing like all this stuff, you know.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
If you're not, you're missing out on a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so I've got a couple things here. I've just got this headline, and I want to see where it goes. Ways to let go of grief. I just wrote that down after reading your bio. I just wrote these topics down. Ways to let go of grief. So you're a grief counselor.
Yeah.
You're a death doula.
Yeah.
Let's say I just broke up, like I just got divorced from my wife, and it's killing me.
Yeah.
Right. Like how would you approach that? How would you help me?
Well, first I would just ask you to breathe.
Yeah.
Right? Because the enormity of it is too big for us to like dissect right now. I would let you just feel what you have to feel and just hold that space for you. I would not ask you what you need, but if you're my friend and we're navigating that space and you're sharing that with me, I would bring you food, or I would show up and help like clean the house. Like if you needed like a place to stay, I would help to provide or to facilitate that. Like I think there are ways to show up without platitudes. Like, oh, it gets better. It doesn't. Like my dog, my dog died like a year ago, and it feels like it was yesterday.
Right.
And I think we minimize and trivialize grief with platitudes. And everyone's grief is different. And it's just even just sending you a daily reminder, like, hey, I'm thinking about you. If you need to talk, I'm here. Like, I think too, we have the divorce, and then the months after, people start forgetting about the divorce. You haven't forgot about it,
right?
Or like, say, let's take it even further, and your wife dies.
I'm not getting divorced, by the way.
Yeah, or like, even further, like your wife
watching this.
Yeah,
still love you.
Or like your wife dies, right?
Right, or whatever.
And then they say after death, everyone mourns with you. They bring you the souffles and the casseroles,
right?
And then it's like, well, why are you still grieving? It's been like 3 months now.
Yeah, aren't you over this yet?
Yeah, and I don't think we ever get over certain losses. Like even with divorce and those losses, there's a death that happens. The marriage has died,
right?
And after just letting you hold that space, then we start looking at what can we do to take next steps? Like what's that next step for you? How do we navigate your grief for you? And maybe it's movement, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's just, anger management classes. Maybe it's something to give you like this place to just release. And that could take forever.
Have you seen the place in, where is it? Is it Irmo? I don't know where it is, but you can go in and smash
stuff.
Shit.
Like sometimes that's what we need. We just need to smash. We need to like just like break things, and I think
need to go and do some clean and jerks.
Yeah, and I think that's that thing. And I think, continuously showing up to someone who is grieving as the friend we say they are, also not pushing them to move beyond their grief, is really the only thing we can do, because there's no way to let go of grief. It holds us as long as it needs to,
as long as it wants to.
It's when someone dies or when a relationship is lost, it's gone, and now you're trying to figure out and navigate the waters without it, and having a friend who can help you find those next lampposts is important. And there's some really great books. There's a really great book called It's Okay to Not Be Okay.
I've seen that cover.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It really talks about this whole thing. Like, you do not have to move on. Grieve forever if you need it. And most of us will grieve forever. If you've lost something close to you,
it'll come back.
You'll remember.
Yeah, it comes back in shades and
it's like
flavors.
It doesn't hurt as much, and it's okay to be joyful and to grieve. Right. Like the other day, there was these 3 little birds that
I saw that on you. Yeah.
So I've watched them grow, and then I went out one morning, and this cat had pulled them off of the thing. Right. So there's 3 dead little birds there. I've watched them. I grieved them. Like I cried. I picked them up. I went home from work, like on my break, to bury them.
Right.
Because that helped me to grieve. So I think having conversations about grief is important because it lets us own space for grief.
Right.
So that when the relationship ends or something bad happens or a loss happens, it's not some foreign thing. Like, we're talking about grief. So this is what grief feels like. And now I have the best tool is just being able to talk about it when I don't feel like I have to hide it. And especially with men, we're taught that we're not allowed to show our emotions, hold our emotions.
Oh, absolutely.
So the mindset is like, if it's not machismo, it's so being able to be soft around loss, I think is important. And it helps us.
Honestly, ultimately, it's probably one of the strongest things you can be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if not, you're just a mess of a human that can't deal with your emotions. That's not strong.
Yeah, it's going to crush you.
Yeah, you're a jerk, usually when you're in that mode.
Yeah. And you're going to get angry, and you're going to go through those 7+ stages of grief. And,
right.
You're going to grieve in multitudes. And typically when we grieve too, we're not just grieving that thing that we lost. We're grieving all the sparks and pieces of grief that we've had from the past that are now coming back to be grieved also.
Interesting.
So when you lose a relationship, you remember all the relationships you lost.
All the other
They all come back,
Yeah. So you don't forget that.
No.
The brain is a mysteriously terribly wired thing.
It's like soil. It's all this beautiful, dark, rich stuff, and there's shards of stone in the soil, but we have to tend it. You're going to cut your fingers, you're going to cry a little bit, but your blood goes in, your tears go into the soil to grow something.
Wow.
And if you can look at what am I growing through my pain and through my grief, and I might not even know what I'm growing, but I'm still tilling the soil.
Dig that.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Cutting people off who aren't good for you.
Absolutely important. Scissors.
Yeah,
I have scissors.
I just did a standalone episode about that very subject. That's also why I threw it in there. But
I have no problem like shutting a door.
Yeah,
I think we have this is weird thing that we have to like let everyone in. It's like like the minute if something needs to be cut out, we have to be able to own our boundaries,
right,
to be healthy. And I think it's important to have healthy boundaries, because healthy boundaries allow us to be present. And when you know when something's not good for you, then it's okay to cut it out, whether it be people, situations. And one of the best things to do is make a list of where you need some boundaries in your life. And I think sometimes it's those of us who are healers and helpers who have the hardest time with boundaries. We will remain in toxic places because we want to fix and we want to heal and we want to help.
Yeah, that was something I just went through. Found this cool article on what's the topic? Energy vampires.
Yeah,
right? That person. But what I was thinking through was not like it's easy to be like, well, that person's an energy vampire. They suck for me.
Yeah,
I'm out. But the flip side of that, the symbiotic relationship as the coach mindset is that when you see someone like that, you want to help that person.
Yeah. And
so that becomes a very toxic, can become a very toxic relationship, whereas you're trying to help them and they're just sucking in all the energy that you give them.
Like I've fired clients before because we're just not meshing well. They're wanting more than I can give them.
Yeah.
They're placing expectations on me that I will never be able to meet.
Wow.
And I think it's important for us, entrepreneurs, coaches, business owners, to say, these are the people I want to work with. And it's okay to say no to people you don't want to work with, because
I forget who said it. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah, absolutely. and we all know we've had that client that's come in that we let through the door and we're like, this is going to be bad. And then we like completely live that affirmation. We're like, this is not going to be good. Yeah. And now they signed the contract with
you. Then you have
like,
a mess.
Oh, man. Yeah. We're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, that person you dread seeing every day.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with that person? Why won't they stop talking? Yeah. All right, so this is this other thing here. I'm interested to get your perspective on. Here, let me find what I wrote about it. Meditation practice for letting go of the past. Okay, so, and I'm gonna set that up a little bit more. Okay. I know where your brain's going, but this is for me personally. I have a hard time letting things go. I'm not talking about like I do hold some grudges, but I mean, I think everybody does if someone's done you wrong, but that seems easy, right? If someone's stolen something from me, I don't like you. That's easy. I have a hard time letting things go. Like if I've been rejected or misunderstood something with someone and I didn't get my chance to clarify it, and I know they're living out there and they think one thing and I'm like, this is not what I meant, like what are some practices that you would say for just letting go of that stuff?
One of the most potent and powerful spiritual tools is a journal. I think when we get it out of our heads and into a place where we can actually look at it, one, it lets me see my thought process. It lets me contextualize what it is I'm actually feeling. And there's usually some nuggets in what we write. And free writing is the best. You just write what you're feeling about the situation, about the person, and really take a look at what you're writing. And there's people who say, "Oh, I find your lessons and your stuff." Well, there's not always a lesson. Like sometimes people just suck, and sometimes we suck. I think owning our suck.
Oh, absolutely. Too. I've been a dick a lot of times.
A lot of times when we're looking at how do I don't like saying let go of my past. How to recontext my past into something that I can manage. So if it's something like closure, we may never get closure from this person. We may never get forgiveness, and I think forgiveness is this like weird Band-Aid we put on things sometimes. It's become like a catchphrase. Closure and forgiveness are sometimes not available, but we can give ourselves forgiveness around the stuff and what we're feeling in regards to the situation. So if I'm feeling still anxious and angry at this person or the situation, I can own it and say, it's okay for me to feel this way. It's okay to not let this go yet. And in not letting it go, I'm learning something about myself. And the journal prompt would be, what am I learning about myself by not letting this go? And where can I soften around this? Not as a lesson or as some like epiphany, but what's the layer beneath this that's really making me feel this way? Maybe this person hurt me in a way that I was hurt before, and it's just bringing that thing up again.
They just scratched an old
scratched an old wound. Or maybe this person just really pissed me off, and now I'm running through all the scenarios that I could have like done it better, right? I should have said this. I could have said that. This would have been quippier, I would have had a cooler story if I said this to them, and I think just writing things down helps us. Well, one, it becomes a physical act of release. When I close a journal, I'm literally closing a book on something. And some of us need physical affirmations. Yeah,
that's cool. Taking it out of the metaphysical and giving it a
and I think there's this idea that we have to let things go, and letting go of that lets us be okay with
actually letting it go.
Feeling it, we actually get to let it go because we're not trying to let it go anymore.
Right.
It's like if you keep focusing on like the scab and you keep picking at it, it's not going to heal.
Never going to heal. Right.
But it's there, and it taught you something. Don't scrape your knees, don't scrape your shins with the barbell, and next time you're probably going to scrape your shins again.
Probably because you're a dumbass.
But at the same time, you're not beating yourself up to scrape your shins.
Wow. Well, man, can you believe we've been going for a full hour?
Oh, jeez.
Isn't that crazy, right?
That's awesome,
Welcome to the time hole.
Yeah.
The time warp. All right, Mike, Coach Mike, I like that. Where can people find you?
Find me here locally at CottonTown CrossFit. I teach at Health Directions, which is Lexington Medical Center's Wellness Center. My website, michaelbrazell.com. They can find my blog at wildheartfitness.com.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I do all kinds of things, so reach out. Text me, call me. I go on and off social media. I do these like hiatuses where I shut everything down for like a month.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I try that, man. I feel like I can't really get away from it though because I need it for business.
People say that all the time.
I know, and so help me out.
So I try. That was my one excuse for not doing it, for
right.
not letting it go. I said, I need to connect with my people. And here's the thing. If I'm that dependent on it, there's something wrong with it. So I don't delete it. I just deactivated it and sat with like the panic of like, and then I realized, and I was like, I put these messages, guys, I'm going off, be off Facebook. No one cared. Not one person. Not one person. But what happened?
Like, cool, scroll.
Yeah. No, I said, please, like, you want to stay in contact? I was going to delete them.
Right.
And like, I'm going to put these messages out. Not one person like asked for my phone number. Not one person like even noticed the message.
Like, I'll see it when I see it.
And what you realize is the value you're putting in this like space really might not be what you think it is.
Right.
And what deactivating it for a bit does when it breaks the algorithm. So now like you're not being fed like all this stuff. When I came back to it, like all the ads were wrong, like everything was weird for a while. And then it all went back to normal.
How long did you deactivate it?
I was on for about a week and a half.
Okay, I think I can do that.
I think doing that kind of resets you, but it also invites you to see how are you really in your business? Like, are you actually talking? Like something I didn't realize was like,
Right.
I'm not like talking to the people at the grocery store about fitness. I'm like online talking to the same people I always talk to about fitness.
Same people.
But I'm not talking to anyone new about my business. And
that's what you need to do.
right. It's
And
like
holy
these
crap.
old school things that existed before Facebook. Like we forgot how to like hype up our business everywhere. Like you should be talking about fitness to everybody. And I'm
Right.
like, I am not doing that.
Wow. Yeah, you're just relying on this thing because it's easy.
Oh, well, if I posted the thing up with my classes online and maybe one person shows up,
Right.
but I'm actually showing up to all these people here and my classes are full.
If I talk to them.
And what I noticed was like all these people like at Health Directions, our members are much older, like 60 plus. My classes are full. None of them following my Facebook, but they all are like there all the time. So I realized like the people I'm talking to on Facebook aren't showing up to my stuff. The people in my life are. So I need to work where my balance is.
Yeah,
So,
screw that social media stuff.
yeah, I watched that Netflix documentary and I'm like, I delete everything.
Oh,
And I
that
did.
scared the shit out of
Yeah.
me. That's true, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand why I only see the same, like, 12 people all the time.
Yeah.
And
You start noticing the same people like your stuff, like you're paying
Yeah.
for ads, and it's not
it's like-
it's not revolutionizing your world. You're
Yeah,
not
what's
really
going on?
getting new membership or new. So it's like certain aspects of our business. I think we do need those storefronts online because our competitors have them.
that and people are going to, like, is it real?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
real. Like, yeah.
And I think having that like
or where are you? Yeah.
And I'm finding like now on Facebook, I'm much more purposeful about what I post. I'm much more vulnerable. I'm showing up. Like,
Right.
this is what
right.
I'm not doing what I think people want to see. I'm just doing my thing.
You're trying to art direct the person that you think they think you are.
Yeah, and it means I post less. So even when I'm on it, like I don't post as much.
Right.
But yeah, I'm on Instagram, Mike Brazell, and Facebook in Brazell. So find me, and if you don't see me there, just click back in a week.
Give them a week or two. It'll be
Yeah,
back.
it'll be back.
That's awesome. Well, man, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That's some deep stuff, and
Yeah.
I think if it's going to help some people, and
Good.
I'll send them your way if
Yeah,
they
please
definitely need
do.
more help.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Love it.
Awesome.
Exciting.